Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Richard's Podcast Land. And today we'll be having Emily Sun that is going to be our guest for this episode. But before we get started, how are you doing today so far, Emily?
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. I've already, had lunch. I'm about to get started on work and, you know, do what I need to do to be a responsible adult for the day.
Well, that's really great to hear. It's such an honor to have you here in my podcast series. I have some questions to ask for you about your career and some stuff. Without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So here's my first question. Can you tell me like your whole experience of how you first got into voiceover? Since where did this all started?
Yeah, so as a kid, I've always been interested in like cartoons and anime. I've been, watching Pokemon since I was 4, and it never really occurred to me that voice acting was a profession. I just kind of watched these TV shows as a consumer and never really thought much about them. And then I think later on in elementary school, I learned that Ash Ketchum was voiced by a woman. I saw a video on YouTube of Veronica Taylor, and I think she was at a convention and she, did the Ash Ketchum voice. And I was so shocked because I had always assumed that Ash was voiced by like a boy or a man or something. I never expected him to be voiced by a woman. And so that was like, wow, like she did that. That's incredible. And then at the end of elementary school and going into middle school, I got more into anime. I never, like, as a kid, considered Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon to be anime. Now I know that they are. But early in middle school, I got into Cardcaptor Sakura, which is what I considered, like, which I watched knowing that it was anime. And yeah, that's when I started getting into the Japanese voice acting industry. It was just really fascinating to, learn more about the Japanese voice actors and hear them in a bunch of shows and be like, wow, they're so talented and they sound like they're having so much fun, like voicing these characters. It seems like something I want to do, but I'll never be able to do it because when I don't live in Japan or speak Japanese. And I was very set on, being a doctor. And then I want to say in university, I took a voice acting class just for fun as an elective, thinking this would be like the only time I would ever get to, experience voice acting. And it was really, really fun being in the booth. It was very magical, transformative. And I heard the story of Max Middleman, who is a very prolific voice actor. He's best known as Saitama in One Punch Man, Plague and Miraculous Ladybug, Ryuji in Persona. And he, recently made a game with Ray Chase and Robbie Damon called Date Everything. And he voices some characters in that one. But basically, Max went to the same university at a different time. I've never met him before. But he went to the same university and also took that same voice acting class that I had. And he was originally pre-med. He wasn't feeling very fulfilled and then pivoted to being a voice actor and is now very successful. So when I heard his story, I was like, oh, wow, that sounds a lot like me. I'm pre-med right now, really not feeling fulfilled, and I'm really enjoying this voice acting class. So that's when I got to thinking like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could do this too. And I went to Korea for a year after I graduated from university, taught English, and then came back when the pandemic was starting in early 2020. And then kind of just like, was trying to wait out the pandemic like most people were. And then by the end of 2020, early 2021, I was like, okay, well, I want to pursue voice acting. I can't just wait for the pandemic to end because it seems like it's never ending and we're never going to leave our houses. So I started taking classes online on Zoom. And then 6 months into taking classes, I managed to book my first ever voice acting role, my first ever acting role in general, because I had never done acting before. And it was Star Rail, and it was, life changing. So that's how I got started.
I see. Well, that's really great to hear. I mean, taking voiceover classes is the best way to start. Like, if any of you guys are serious about getting going a career in voiceover, taking a class is the best way to start. Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and speaking of Max Middleman, he is such an awesome voice actor. Like, are you planning to meet him at a convention someday? I know he will love to meet you because he loved all of his fans so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to meet him and work with him one day. But if I do, yeah, hopefully.
Yep. All right. Next question. How does it feel about playing Clara from Honkai Star Rail?
Yeah, oh my goodness. She is a dream role that I never knew I had until I booked her. And I think her being the first, like, she will always be so special to me. Like, she basically started my career and allowed me to have any sort of career in this industry where, you know, so many people are trying to break in, get their foot in the door, and she was, she opened that door so wide for me. And yeah, I love getting to, play her. She's so sweet, she's so kind, she's really really smart. And there are a lot of similarities between us in that, she's insecure, she's shy when you like first meet her, and she just wants to make sure everyone else around her is comfortable and happy, and I relate a lot to that. Um there were a lot of feelings of loneliness in her story that I don't think have been really expanded on in the current version of the story, since uh the story changed in Star Rail between CBT1 and Closed Beta 1, between the current launch game. So in CBT1, she was definitely a lot lonelier, a lot sadder, and just way more withdrawn. So in her current iteration, she's a lot brighter, and she's more open with folks, but definitely, like, I relate to, both the really sad, withdrawn part of her and kind of, the brighter, happier side of her. And again, she's just really, really sweet. And I also love that she's, a good character in the game. She's a standard character, so her power ceiling can only go so high. But the fact that, you can still clear end game content with her makes me really happy. Like, people are okay losing their 50/50s to her. So it's it's nice knowing that people, don't feel bad when they pull her. So yeah, I love getting to be her.
That's really great to hear. I'm glad you had fun playing that character. Like, speaking of her, what is your favorite line that you got to do for that awesome character for the game? Like, which one is your most favorite?
Um, so I would say the line that's most memorable to me, which ironically I can't remember, 'cause I recorded it so long ago, and in the it's in like the, 1.0 story quest. Like, it was in the base game when it launched. So it's been a long time since I've, you know, watched or played that scene. It's been over 2 years, and then, even longer since I recorded it. And because it's not a line that you can replay very often. But it's basically when the Astral Express is in Belobog, and it's right before they get to the robot settlement, and they find Clara kind of near one of those like contraptions that are near the robot settlement in the vagrant camp, I believe. And they're trying to convince her to bring them to Svarog. and they're telling her like, oh, I think there's like an option you can choose with March where you can say like who you are or what you are to Clara to try and convince her. And I think one of the options is March being like, oh, we come from outer space, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. We're not from Belobog, we're not from Urilo 6. We're from the outside, and so we're special. Like, let us go see the giant robot. Um, and Clara says something like, she doesn't believe them, so she's like, don't treat me like a child. Those are just made up stories that grown-ups like to say, or like that. I don't remember the exact words. But I'm paraphrasing a little bit. So it's something like that. And I really like that line in particular because, she's smart. She's really smart, but people, might underestimate her because she didn't have a conventional childhood, because she's an orphan, and she's very shy and doesn't really talk to people. So people, I think, underestimate how strong, mentally she is and how smart she really is. And that's like her trying to be like, hey, like, I'm not just someone you can try to trick. Like, I can see through you, and even though I'm young, like, take me seriously. So I really like that.
Yep. All right. Next question. What are your hobbies when you don't do voiceover? Like, do you do sports? Do you do music? Do you hang out with your friends? Or something?
Yeah. I would say my biggest hobbies are listening to K-pop. I really, really love K-pop. I've been listening to K-pop since I was 13. Yeah. And then I also, I like watching anime. I like playing video games. I love hanging out with my friends, both in the industry and out of the industry. I've been friends with my friends outside of the industry since, I was like 10 or 11, some of them. And so I've really maintained these friendships for over a decade at this point, and they mean the world to me. And yeah, I play tennis with them. I go out and run with them. Um, and I also love writing. I really love writing. I haven't done much of it recently just because I've been so busy, but creative writing is something that I do mostly for myself. It's just a way for me to express my feelings and, let my imagination run wild, because I've got a very, very overactive imagination. So, yeah.
I see. Like, speaking of K-pop, which one is your most favorite band?
For me, I can't choose a favorite, but the group that got me into K-pop is called Beast. And now they're known as Highlight because of, contracts and stuff that probably is not within the scope of this conversation. It's a long story. But yeah, Beast or Highlight. And then the group that I've spent the most money on, and I'm probably most publicly a fan of, is EXO. But I love so many groups. Like, I could go for hours naming the groups and idols that I follow. So, yeah.
That's really awesome. Hopefully, I could get to go to a K-pop band concert someday. I mean, K-pop, I'm a huge K-pop fanatic, so is my sis. But hopefully, you could get to go someday. If that happened,
I've been to a lot of concerts. I literally was at a concert over the weekend. Baekhyun's concert. Baekhyun, he's from EXO. And yeah, his first time in LA as a solo artist. He's been to LA before with EXO. First time as a solo artist. It was really special because I've been supporting him for almost a decade now, and I really love him. He's just really talented, fantastic singer, fantastic dancer, great personality, so bright, so funny. Um, and yeah, it makes me smile seeing him on stage having fun. So yeah,
amazing. I never heard of him. Well, hopefully, I could get to check him out someday.
definitely should. His music is fantastic.
I should. Yeah. All right. Next question. Have you ever been invited to Comic Cons where you watch the Q&A show with the voice actors of how they got into voiceover?
Well, I've been invited to conventions. I've been lucky enough that conventions and fans want to meet me in person. So I've been to several conventions. And yeah, I've met a lot of voice actors in person that I never imagined I would ever meet. And yeah, if I have time or if I'm part of the panel with them, then I hear their voice acting origin story. But a lot of times I usually hear other voice actors' origin stories by listening to online interviews like this on YouTube. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, once a voice actor gives tips to all the fans, bring your notepad, bring your pen, and write down all the tips that they give out because it's always very helpful for them to give out tips for all fans because in that way, they don't really have to get into too much pressure because you know how much websites they look up to and it doesn't always work out. Getting tips from a voice actor at a convention is always a good, easy way to start, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like if you go up and meet a voice actor, uh, you know, gauge their level of comfort. But it doesn't hurt to ask like, "Hey, do you have any tips?" And if they're like, "I don't feel that it's like they're not trying to help you." Sometimes it's like they get that question a lot or they just feel like they don't, it's like a long convoluted answer for everyone. But if you do find a voice actor who is willing to answer your questions, don't be shy because, they've clearly already answered the first one. And again, just kind of gauge what the vibe is and, see how the conversation flows naturally.
Yep. And if you guys also wanted to check out a full steps of how to get into voiceover, check out D. Bradley Baker's website down below, iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Go check it out.
I highly recommend it. That's the website. That's the first thing I tell anyone who comes to my table and they ask, how do I be a voice actor? And I say, go to this website and then do more steps.
Mm-hmm. All right. Final question. What are your dream roles you would like to voice in the future? It could be Marvel, Star Wars, Demon Slayer, or anything. Yeah.
For me personally, Pokemon, I would love to be in Pokemon. Pokemon is the reason I feel like I got into any of this in the first place, whether it's anime, cartoons, voice acting, just like, nerdy, geeky culture in general, games in general. Pokemon was my first ever game. Um, I would love to be in Pokemon in any shape or form, human, Pokemon, like anything. Because that would just, I don't know, it would mean a lot to the younger version of me and also the current version of me. I still love Pokemon. But yeah, Pokemon is my everything. And then in terms of like specific characters, I have two that are very culturally relevant to me. So I'm Chinese, and there are two, like, I guess, Chinese legends or like myths, fables. Uh, and one of them is Naja, and he's this, young kid who has a lot of mystical, magical powers. Again, it would probably take, a long time if I explained his whole story, but look it up, Naja, Nezha. And then the other one is Sun Wukong. I think most people uh, are familiar with Wukong since he's the Monkey King. He's pretty visible in media. There are so many iterations of him. Um, I don't expect to actually be like, Sun Wukong like in his adult version, because he's a man. But if there's, ever a female version or a young version of Sun Wukong, I would love to play him. So yeah, Noja, who's a small kid, so more realistic for me to voice him, and then Sun Wukong. It would mean a lot to me to voice either of them or both of them. If I managed to voice both of them in my lifetime, that would truly make my day, because when I was a kid, they were, they had their own TV shows, animated TV shows, and I watched them as a kid with my sister at home on CCTV. And that was like, again, very impactful on my life. And even now, like with the animated films of Noja, like Noja 2 recently was like, one of the most successful animated films ever. It's just really cool to see, Chinese culture being celebrated so positively. And it means something to my parents. Like my family was really excited for us to go watch Noja 2 in theaters. And that was the first movie we had seen in theaters together as a family in I don't even know how long. So like definitely before the pandemic. So if I could, be in a project like that, in a role like that I could share with my family, I think it would be really, really meaningful. So yeah, those are my dream roles.
Those are some great roles that you got there, to be honest. Hopefully, you could get to voice them in the future. If God notices, he might who to choose. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I just have to keep working hard, and then if the opportunity comes up, put my best foot forward.
Yep. All right, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining here in my podcast series. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoys listening to it.
Yep, I'm sure everyone will. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, stay awesome, stay positive, and stay happy for all of your fans and co-stars, all right? Have a wonderful day, Emily.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.